Hello and welcome back to Onion Unlimited, the live stream. I'm your host, Daniel Torridon. I'm joined, as usual, by my friend Carine Kivers from You Are The Change.
Hello, everyone.
How are you doing, Carine?
Really well, thank you.
Jolly good. Lovely to have you back in the studio again for another live stream. And we've also got, you can't see her. You can't see her. She's invisible.
Yeah.
Over in the corner.
Yeah.
Mariella Kermy in the corner of obscurity.
Where I like to be.
Where you like to be. You can hear her voice. Hello. Coming out of the ether.
Having opinion, but can't be seen.
Yes.
With an opinion. All righty. We're going to be talking about the power of breath this evening. Breath work. Carine, this is kind of your show, really, because I haven't got a clue what we're talking about this time. I'm going to ask you a question, though, to start with.
Sure.
Carine,
Yeah.
what qualifies you to talk to us all about breath?
I believe everyone qualifies because we actually all breathe automatically.
Yeah.
And I have been practicing breath techniques and ways to improve my being in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't qualify me in any way, but it means that I actually really enjoy sharing the experience after researching and observing that breath is more than what we think it is, because it really is the life force. Because without breathing...
Well, it is. I mean, if we don't,
we're
don't
not
breathe,
here, are we? No.
Don't breathe, we're dead, aren't we? Yeah. I mean, I must admit, and I'm sure you're going to correct us this evening, I've always thought like breathing is literally, well, it's pretty simple. You just do it in and out, don't you?
Well, it is. And that
Mariella's giving me a funny look.
And that is exactly what it is breathing is actually in and out.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we don't do it very well.
Okay.
We do it automatically, but it doesn't mean that it's actually doing us the benefit that it can do.
Mm-hmm.
And various different cultures around the world over time, over different centuries, have valued the breath in very different ways and have utilized it for longevity, calmness, stillness, healing, health, transcendence, being able to go to other thoughts, other worlds, but also
meditation. You're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
yeah.
meditation, yoga,
Mm-hmm.
breath work, as in releasing of trauma. So there's all these different things in the West, and there are people that have studied it, and it is becoming quite a phenomenon now where people are all talking about breath work.
Yeah.
And, it's this new thing. That's how I see it. It's this thing of, like yoga became really popular.
Have you been doing your breath work?
Yeah, and, where I was doing weights was something really popular. Eating certain foods became really popular. So I think it's a movement at the minute, which is great.
Is it a bit of a fad?
Like anything that becomes all of a sudden mass market and seems to be everywhere is a fad. But at the same time, we all breathe, every single being on this earth, whether it's animal, plant, or humans. We cannot do without the breath.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we do it that actually ends up giving us the edge over others.
Well, I want you to sort of take the wheel tonight and talk us through it. I do have a few things I would love you to address if you could. So,
Sure. First
of all, what is breath work? If you could sort of take us through that, what is it? Why is it any different than just sort of breathing in and out? If you could touch on some of the links to yoga and meditation, that'd be cool, because like yoga, I've always thought I have a bit of a problem with yoga because I'm not very bendy. But breathing, that sounds pretty easy. So, I could probably do a bit of breathing. If you could touch on some of the physical and mental effects, why should we be bothering with breath work? You've probably got some questions over in the corner of obscurity, Mariella, haven't you?
Have I?
Well, I would imagine you probably have.
Maybe along the way.
Along the way.
Yes.
One thing I do just want to mention at the outset, because, I'm the skeptic in the room, boo. When we went to that shindig that you were doing...
Conscious Life Festival.
That's the one, yeah. We went to there. I signed up for one of the workshops where...
That's right. You did a breath workshop.
I did,
yes.
Yeah. Lovely guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in the room and laid down on like this sort of yoga mat or whatever it was. Yes. Should have took a pillow. Didn't have a pillow. And he did all sorts of weird stuff, like he was doing like these sort of like, what was he doing? He was like talking and banging these sort of like gongs and things, wasn't he? And
Some drums.
some drums and stuff like that, and telling you to breathe fast and breathe slow and all the rest of it, yeah. And at one point, people were like making some really weird noises as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was like groaning and moaning and all sorts. I thought, I'm not doing that. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, and you know what? It is kind of weird.
It is weird,
Yeah.
right? And
I'm going to be honest with
and
you.
at the end of
that
it,
one.
he said to everyone, like, you know, did you have an amazing experience and was it transformational? And everyone's going, yeah, it was really transformational. You know, I was on another planet and sort of, you know, I feel all cleansed and brilliant and all the rest. I'm sitting there thinking, I didn't feel a thing.
No, and
Didn't feel a thing. And I thought, that's a load of rubbish, isn't it?
You nearly fell asleep, I
I
think.
did nearly fall asleep. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So-
see, this is where I think
okay.
the movement has become very westernized, same as yoga has become very westernized, because traditional yoga is actually slow movement. So flows is something that's been introduced by the West because people in the West like to move and to feel like they're, you know,
Yeah.
it's going from A to B, whereas if you go to the East, yoga is very different. It's actually stationary in a lot of poses, holding,
Suit me.
strength, breathing through it.
Yep.
So with yoga, it's actually working with what they call prana, which is the life force, or chi, which is the life force if you're going further east. And so it's utilizing and harnessing and breathing properly to help you transition from one pose
All right,
to
well,
another.
start off with that for me then. So breath work, what is it? How do you do it? So breathe into me. I've always just breathed in, breathed out. Generally, I'm just thinking about how I do it now. I think I generally breathe in through my mouth, I think. I breathe in through my mouth and I probably breathe out my mouth, and I don't really breathe through my nose very much because a lot of times I've got terrible sinus and I end up like having these
His whistle nose.
whistle nose. I took just
So
before
Mariella said, stop whistling.
well, just before we came online, I actually went and like put some of that Atrovine stuff up my nose. You got to be careful with that because if you take too much, it like dilates the blood vessels.
Yes,
or
the
shrinks them or
capillaries, and
something.
you can end up with a blood nose.
Well, you can, and also you can have like a rebound effect. If
Yes.
you take too much of it, you end up like it actually makes it worse. But you're supposed to use that stuff for like 7 days.
So there is some breath techniques that you can do that will really help your
Good,
sinuses.
because I've been taking this. I've been using Atrovine since 2003.
Yeah, so it's maybe time to wean yourself off it
Maybe
with a
so.
breath technique.
So talk me through it. How do we do it? What's proper breathing, Carine?
Well, so proper breathing is varied because breath gets oxygen in and eliminates gas out of your body, right? That is kind of how it works.
Carbon monoxide,
Yeah, so basically you take in oxygen and then it gets processed through your system and then you release carbon monoxide. Now, most of us, especially because we lead really busy lives and we get so impacted by everything that goes on, we're highly stressed and we actually don't breathe properly. So a lot of times we actually breathe really shallow. And what I mean by shallow is you take a breath in, it only goes halfway down the lungs and then you're kind of trying to push it back out. And you're taking in as much as you're taking out, but it's really quick.
Yeah, I breathe very shallow.
So we're
Very
taking
shallow.
too many breaths in. And what it means is your body's not getting oxygenated as it should. So you're not getting enough oxygen in to go to all your peripheral spaces. So basically your fingers, your extremities like your toes, all your different organs. And then you're literally expelling the CO2. But there's not enough of it being expelled either because you haven't actually given enough gas within and without your body.
So the gas exchange
Needs to be bigger than that.
So I'm probably doing this really, really wrong then because first off, I breathe very shallow.
Which most people in the West do, by the way, so you're
I
not
also
alone.
I actually breathe very slow.
Breathing,
I hardly breathe at all, do I?
yeah, but breathing less per minute does you a service.
Yeah.
Because so the smaller the creature is, for instance, the faster the heart rate goes, but they're also breathing faster. So if you want to live a longer life, so it's all about in the West now about, extending your age and
I want to live till I'm 106.
living forever and all this kind of thing. And people are doing all sorts of things, whether it's taking, herbs or medicines or taking infusions or eating certain foods or certain exercises or red light therapy or saunas or all these kind of things. Having a longer breath in, holding it, and a longer breath out is actually going to help you age better.
Okay. I don't hold my breath very long. So I breathe in and then I breathe in very slowly. I breathe out almost immediately.
Yeah. Whereas there are some different techniques that you can do that will actually help stabilize your body as well. And it actually lowers your stress by holding that breath in between. And it's fantastic for people that are overthinkers, because a lot of times overthinkers means there's not enough oxygen going to the brain and you're just getting too much, short amount of oxygen in and then not enough carbon monoxide leaving. So you're getting stressed, you're getting anxious, everything is wound up too much. So we're running into the fight and flight basically.
So I'm at the skeptic I am. I'm trying to look at this from a more of a scientific point of view than necessarily the sort of woo-woo side of things. What you're saying then is if you take a deep breath in, that gets the oxygen in your body. And if you hold your breath for a period of time, so you're not breathing out, that gives like your heart that's pumping the blood to the lungs more time, basically, doesn't it, to utilise the oxygen that you've breathed in. Whereas if you're breathing in deep or shallow, but you're breathing out just as quick,
it's got nowhere to go.
You're not actually doing anything with the oxygen, are you?
No, correct.
In, out,
That's
in,
right.
out, in, out.
That's
okay,
right.
well,
Correct.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And there has been many studies done along the way, because people have been studying and observing breath and what it can or can't do, because you can also heal yourself with it through stillness and meditation. And the trend at the minute really is all about breath work. And breath work is the elevation and the transcending and having this experience, the experience you had
went, it was amazing,
with the guy, and it's great, and they're making all these really weird noises, and you kind of go, is that for real, or is that attention seeking, or what actually is it?
So do you is that what you do,
No.
or do you just literally do breath? You don't do the weird.
No, I don't do any of the weird.
Weird
So
stuff,
for me, what I do, and I've been facilitating some workshops in my local gym and in the next town as well. And what it is the breath work is that next level, but people aren't ready, because if you're shallow breathing all the time, and shallow breathing is fantastic if you're running away from something. So if you're going fighting in war, or you're going hunting and there's a big bear chasing you, or a lion, then you better be getting short breaths in and out, because everything stops. Your digestion will slow down, your focus will slow down, because you're literally just trying to saving your life, right? So shallow breathing is fantastic for that. But if you actually want to have good digestion, good mental clarity, good body function, then you need to slow down and breathe.
Right, so what's the relationship then between oxygen and the things you're talking about, like digestion? How's that work? Surely digestion is just like your stomach. It's got nothing to do with your lungs or your heart, is it?
But it needs oxygen. Everything needs oxygen, and the blood needs to go through. So basically the oxygen goes into your blood, and then it goes to all your organs as well, because every organ has blood supply go to it.
Right, yeah, of course.
Which a lot of people don't realise that, if they might not know. But every organ needs blood supply. So if you don't get enough oxygen into the blood to circulate through your body, which is also where, people say, I've got bad blood circulation, because the fingers go cold and the feet go numb, and you get, a cold nose and things like that. Well, if you were sitting down, maybe doing some breath techniques, So I don't call it breath work. I call it breath techniques
Breath techniques.
utilizing the breath. And there's various different options you can use to help improve certain things. But the key takeout out of it is if you learn how to breathe better, then you will end up having better functioning organs.
Better functioning, right?
Which means your stomach will have better chance to digest.
Yeah.
Your lungs will
that does make
expand
sense.
to take more breath. Your brain will get more oxygen so you can think clearer.
Yeah. Well, that's the bit I'm most interested in, because I use my brain a lot at work.
Yeah.
That does make sense because, like, if you're not getting enough oxygen in, for example, if you sat cross-legged and you cut off the oxygen to the lower extremities of your leg or whatever,
They go numb.
It goes numb, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if you're not getting enough, oxygen into your noggin,
Yeah.
your brain's going to go numb, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Mariella's nodding her head at me.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, okay,
But
so that makes sense. So you don't call it breath work, you call it breath technique. That's better. I like that. There's a bit of a scientific explanation to it. What's your opinions of, so one of the things that at one of these breathwork sessions they did was this business where you breathe in a lot really fast. So you go and then everyone goes, oh, I'm having this weird mystical experience. I'm thinking, no, you're just hyperventilating.
Correct.
You've
And
just
this-
got too much oxygen. That's all that's happening.
And so, again, it is for me.
You're not
and
seeing,
everyone- and
you're not
everyone's-
seeing God. You're
Everyone's got a different opinion, but this is where, for me, it's another fad. And doing those breath work sessions, I'm sure were done at certain stages for shamanic experiences, but it's one of those things that, you go, years ago people used to go out partying and take MDMA or take acid or take speed or whatever, and you had this, I guess in a way, an out-of-body experience and you felt damn good, right?
Yeah, well,
It's a similar thing.
Yeah.
And so and this is where, like Wim Hof, for instance, does,
Yes.
that kind of breathing. And
Yes.
from that, with the ice baths, because basically you're putting your body into shock.
Yeah.
Because you're breathing.
So it's
breathing.
no wonder you're
then
going to feel something, isn't it?
Of course, because your body is into a different state. So it's
course
like
it
a
does.
trance state. So whereas for me, again, my opinion only, and kudos to those people that do it and want to have that transcendental experience. You know, I've got other methods if I want to do that.
Tell me about
Well,
it.
there's other ways that you can do it.
Of course there is, yeah,
Each to their own, right?
Yeah.
But for me, we're bypassing the actual reality of breathing properly. So, because if you're shallow breathing, like what you do, and you are mouth breathing, which is what you're saying you do.
I do a lot of mouth breathing,
And that, you get brain fog or you can't think clearly at times, or you say, digestion might play up or whatever. If you then go to do the breath work and you do that, breathing in and out and, you're having an experience or whatever, that's not helping you long term. Mm-hmm. Whereas teaching or sharing breath techniques, which is what I'm really passionate about, is about sharing with people better ways to breathe so that you
habit.
As a habit, so that you end up with better digestion. You end up with the ability, like from me, I can be an asthmatic on certain times of the year, or certain exposure to pollens, stress may cause me to get what it feels like asthma, which is partly caused by shallow breathing and panicking and not feeling calm, right? Yeah. So I'm not breathing properly. So if I put those techniques in place, I am breathing properly. I have a lot of sinus issues where my nose gets blocked a lot of times. So alternate nostril breathing is fantastic for it, especially first thing in the morning, because you're telling your brain to clear your nose, getting ready to use it as the organ that it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So if people can actually get more practiced breathing better day to day, it can reduce their anxiety, it can reduce their stress, it can help them think better. So why not do the middle road versus go and have this experience to get off the planet?
So something to do every day.
You may as well go drink a bottle of wine and get drunk and then deal with the fallout later, but it doesn't help you cope with life day to day, if that makes sense. So breath techniques, I think, is really important, and understanding what the breath does and how to improve it, because diaphragm breathing, which is basically the stomach area underneath your rib cage, that's where you've got to breathe from.
Yeah.
So basically you've got to get your breath really deep, and women are more challenged with that than men because you're not supposed to have a fat belly, right? So you're supposed to, have that skinny waist, but when you actually breathe properly into your diaphragm, your tummy will swell. That is what is meant to do, because the breath is going all the way down to the bottom.
So you get so much oxygen so much air into your lungs that it actually pushes down into your belly.
Well, you start pulling it all into your belly first.
Oh, okay.
So if you're really breathing deeply and slowly, you actually...
Well, it's not actually going in your belly, is it? Because
it's going in your diaphragm.
It's not. It's going into your lungs, isn't it? And that's pushing down on you.
But the lungs are that deep that it goes into your... So it literally goes underneath. And most people don't ever use that part. So it means you're getting staleness in there as well. And there's a lot of stagnant, what they call stagnant energy, or stagnant chi, or prana, or whatever you want to call it, whether you want to use east or west.
Wouldn't you just call it not enough oxygen?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like chi or prana, which is the life force, it's the breath is what it is.
Breath.
Yeah,
all right,
breath, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, so that's quite interesting. Of course, there is a link with the diaphragm and the brain and breathing in the lungs, of course, because the brain actually moves the diaphragm. So the brain, through the nervous system, makes the diaphragm when you're at rest, the diaphragm is shaped like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And your brain sends a signal to the diaphragm, which is just a big muscle really, that stretches it down. And as it does that, it basically gives the lungs more air to expand into it.
That's
and
right.
It's a vacuum system, isn't it? So as the lungs expand, they suck air in from the outside. That's how that works.
Yeah.
And then when your brain relaxes that, it says, oh, great, I've got some oxygen, because the oxygen that's come into the lungs, the heart will pump it up to the brain. When the brain says, I've got enough oxygen now, it will then relax itself, and then you breathe out.
Yeah. Whereas, I think the heart's a compressor. So it
you think the heart's a compressor?
Yeah, it compresses and then it releases.
Yeah, well, I mean,
to me,
the heart.
To me, it's not a pump. Like people say, the heart's a pump.
No, I think it is it is a pump.
Yeah, whereas I actually think it's a compressor. So it starts with compressing first and then releasing, versus the other way around.
Well, yeah, but so here's an interesting fact: the heart is the only part of the body that is not controlled by the brain.
Yeah.
So the heart actually has like its own sort of mini brain called sinus nodes that fire electrical signals in the heart itself to make it do that, and it's pumping the blood around. Well, it pumps the blood to the lungs, doesn't it? It picks up the oxygen that's in the lungs, assuming you've just breathed in, and then it pumps it around the body to your arms and legs.
Yeah.
And everything else. Here's the interesting thing, though. So the brain is kind of in control of breathing. So the brain is controlling the lungs, controlling the diaphragm, which does the lungs to get the oxygen in. The heart is basically responsible for picking that oxygen up and pumping it around the body. If for any reason one of those systems fails, the other one eventually gives up.
Yeah.
So, for example, if your heart stops pumping, the brain will not get any oxygen.
That's right.
So the brain then dies, and then the brain will then stop the diaphragm going up and down, and you will stop breathing.
That's right.
It works the other way around as well. If for some reason you stop breathing, let's say, for example, you, drown and you swallow a load of water, you've got no oxygen in your body anymore, you've just got water, no oxygen to go around. Basically, the heart will be pumping like dead blood around the body with no oxygen in, and at some point the heart will go, there's no point doing this.
That's right.
It gives up, and then you go into cardiac arrest.
Yes.
So it's interesting, the two systems work together.
Do.
They work in tandem.
So to me, they are still interconnected.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Even though they operate separately, they are still working as a unit.
Yeah.
Because one can't function without the other. And the breath is actually the way that the system keeps going.
The minute you take the oxygen out, that's it.
Correct.
It
so
all stops,
breath is life.
Breath
Prana,
is life.
as they call it in,
I like that.
in Indian places like that. So That's why it's so important.
So what's the links to things like, you keep talking about prana, what is that? And what's the links to things like yoga and meditation?
So
Tell me about that.
yoga started many, many years ago, eons ago. And that was just a practice that the yogi did to really work with their breath and to put their body into certain positions where they would hold it, and that would do certain things to their body, because they would do belly breathing, they would do heart breathing, they would do lung breathing.
So when they're doing all them sort of bendy bits, is that just about being flexible, or is proper yoga about breathing?
Yeah, it's about breathing. It's breathing and being flexible, but also strength. Yeah.
Building that core strength.
Yeah. So it's like Tai Chi, for instance, which is what the Chinese do. It is slow movement. So to me, it's like slow yoga. It's a graceful yoga, and they also use the breath.
It always amazes me because people that like genuinely do yoga and you know those Tai Chi people that do stuff, like they don't seem to be like doing anything sort of overly overexerting themselves. And they're not sort of running around the block, are they, or lifting weights or anything like that. But they always seem like really lean and trim and like you don't very often see like a fat yoga person, do you?
You don't, no. But because in a lot of ways it's a lifestyle. We've also got to remember what we see in the West is very different from the yoga in the East, because we've westernized it. Because in the West we, want to wear, and I've kind of veered away from that, but in the beginning I used to very much be that lycra gym bunny, because you want to look lean and slim and beautiful, because it was the beautiful people that did yoga.
Yeah.
And then, you have your juice and you do, because again, it was another fad in a way, right?
So you couldn't just, for example, like if you showed me a few like yoga and breath techniques or whatever, I couldn't just start doing that and then the weight would just drop off me. I've got to couple it with like, not eating burgers and ice creams and stuff like that. So just a bit of yoga's not going to cut it.
No, but that's like anything. But interestingly enough, it might in a way help you look at food differently if, say, you were breathing deeper. Because if
explain that. Why would me breathing differently make me look at a burger differently? That doesn't.
Because your brain will think differently.
Will it?
Yeah, and you might be more calm.
Oh, right, because it's got more oxygen.
Correct.
So it starts thinking sensibly.
Or maybe it might just look at things differently because you feel better.
Oh, interesting.
So when you feel better, you will have more energy. And then when you have more energy, you might be more willing or happy to have activity.
Right, because if you've got more energy because you've got more oxygen, your brain's like going, what are you playing at?
Yeah, and maybe
don't eat the burger. Don't eat the burger. Go for a walk. Go for a walk. Yeah, I get it. I get it now.
Yeah. So
Eat an apple. Eat an apple. Don't have the block of chocolate.
But it's one of those funny things that if you start to feel better, you can make better decisions. Whereas I know when I get really stressed.
Oh, I got stressed today.
Basically what it will end up, my brain can't work out quite what I might want to eat. And even though I don't eat meat or dairy or anything like that, and I have a healthy lifestyle, when I am under too much pressure or stress, I can't think of what to eat. And then I will end up, for some reason, it might be, maybe I'll just go get some chips.
Yeah.
And I go, well, I don't normally eat that. But your body is starved of something because it didn't have enough oxygen. Yeah. And then you go, fat with salt is going to be great. Or maybe biscuits. And then you end up feeling bloated, then yuck, and then you go, I feel a bit down.
See, I use my brain a lot, all right? I know, it's surprising. I use my brain a lot at work.
Compared to others?
Well, yeah, actually. I'm going to say that. So, during the day, I'm sort of very creative, building websites and some quite complicated things, coding and all that kind of thing. And I totally get that, the brain does absolutely need oxygen in order for that to work. Yeah, if you're not giving it enough oxygen, it's not going to work properly,
That's right.
is it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I also know that the brain does use glucose. Glucose is basically its fuel,
Yeah.
If you have low blood sugar, then your brain also isn't going to work. Yeah. So I think sometimes I compensate for the lack of oxygen
Yeah, and many people do.
banging some sugar down
Yeah,
me.
many people do. So you're shortcutting or short-circuiting.
Yeah.
Whereas, see, if you're using your brain all the time, for instance, and you're being super creative, you also then get a little bit drained and sometimes a bit fatigued.
Yeah. So I'll go and have like a Coke.
Yeah, whereas if you went and
Solo or
sat
something.
down and just went and did it like box breathing, for instance. So box breathing is counting for 4 in, holding it for 4, breathing out for 4, holding it for 4, breathe in for 4, and you just keep repeating the cycle.
Sounds
and-
complicated.
It's really simple. You can't get it wrong.
Well, if it's that simple, what I want you to do today, and
Yeah.
I'm certain you're up for this.
Yeah.
We've reached the part of the show where we're going to stop talking theory, and then let's put it into practice.
Sure.
Can you show me? Well, and Mariella, she's sitting in the car. I don't even know if
Here.
she's still breathing.
No,
You
I'm
still
here. I'm breathing.
Oh, she's still breathing. She's
Still
in the corner.
breathing. Yeah.
Yeah, she's in the corner of obscurity there. Can you walk us through it? All right. So if we were to come along to one of your
Yeah.
breath
Workshops.
workshops,
Yeah.
do I have to lay on the floor? Can I do it sat in my chair?
You can do it whichever way you want.
I'd like to stay in my chair.
But
if that's all right, please.
sitting, I actually think, is better
okay.
for your alertness and your awakeness.
Okay, well, I'm going to sit.
Because when you lay, and a lot of people like laying down when they're going to go do breath work and then say go into meditation.
I just fell asleep when I did it.
That's what I was going to say. But the temptation is because we get so mentally drained and physically drained, the body just goes, oh my God, we are having rest.
Well,
so
it's
you
right,
fall
yeah,
asleep.
You lay down and go to sleep, don't you?
Yeah. Whereas sitting up, you can actually end up helping your posture as well, because if you really are paying attention to your breath and breathing in deeper and breathing out deeper, it's easier if you sit upright, drop your shoulders,
Okay,
get
well,
your hips
I'm
right.
I'm sat in my chair.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sat in my chair. My shoulders. What's
Yep,
wrong with my shoulders?
So
Let me
you
shoulder
lift them up and then you just roll them back and you drop them down.
Okay, right.
Yep.
I'm sat in my chair.
Yeah,
And my shoulders are.
and then you go, okay, do I have turtleneck? Yes or no? Because turtleneck is good.
Turtleneck.
Turtleneck is basically you lower your
Steve
chin a
Jobs.
little bit and you pull it back. So instead
What am I
of
doing?
most people sit like this or work like this,
Give yourself a double
or
chin.
they go like,
I'll give myself a double
Go
chin.
on,
Okay,
give
that's
yourself a
easy.
double chin.
so it's
Go on.
like nearly a double chin, but not really.
Okay, right. So
That means your spine will then align straighter. You have your basically your legs kind of hip width apart and your feet balanced on the floor, and
All
then
right,
your arms
so-
where you're comfortable.
arms are okay. Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
comfortable at the
And
moment.
then what I usually
Do I have to be
start-
sat up straight or not?
Yep, sit up straight. And then what I do is I get people to land in the room, because a lot of times people have just rushed to get there, or they are quite stressed. I've had a busy day. Now I'm going to do, sitting breathing. It's like, great. No, you need to actually allow yourself the space to go, I'm actually going to be doing some breathing for me in a quiet, still place. So I need to land in my body and honor the fact that I'm here and I'm going to do this. So normally what I ask people to do is close their eyes if they're comfortable, or stare into, some space where there's no distraction, and you take a deep breath in your nose.
Through
if
my
you're
nose.
not
Through my nose.
through your nose, if you can manage it.
Oh, breathe
Through
through
your
my
nose,
nose. Yeah, I took some of that
and
nasal
then-
spray earlier.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yep.
then what?
And then breathe out, and you've got two options. But you've got two options.
Through my
is
mouth
to
or through my nose?
breathe out through your mouth,
Through my mouth. Right.
because
So
it
okay.
helps release tension. Yeah. And then you're basically, in your mind, you're stilling and quietening everything. So you take a few deep breaths through your nose, then either through your nose again if you can manage it.
Is there any time into this? Do I have to
It's your
sort of like
breath.
free in and free out, or just whatever I want to do?
It's
Right.
your breath in and out, because what you're doing is you're landing in your body.
Okay.
You're allowing the space.
But it's got to be through my nose, and it's got to be a bit deeper than I'd usually
Yes.
do. Right.
Yeah. Because what you're doing is you're telling your brain, I'm actually going to breathe. And then you're literally just calming yourself. You're landing in the room. You're landing in your body. And so it's a deep, slow breath in
Oh, you're hypnotising me. Okay.
and a slow breath out.
All right. Okay.
Well,
So
what
that's-
happens is it's actually like a semi-hypnotizing
It is a little
session
bit, isn't
where
it?
you do
Okay.
self-hypnosis in a way, right? And this is where you end up calming, especially for people that are really stressed, people that suffer from anxiety or, various PTSD. It's all really good to do breath technique work. So then once we've done that a few times, then I'll ask people to do some sighing.
Oh, no.
Because we don't do enough of that because, again, we hold energy and frustration.
Is this going to get weird?
No.
Oh, good.
It's just going to sound like me sitting on the other side of the desk at work.
Yeah, so basically, because what happens is you take a deep breath in through the nose. Always try to nose breathe if you
nose
can.
breathing. That's,
and then you breathe out through the mouth and you sigh.
How do I sigh? Oh,
Whichever way you want. So every day your sighing will be different. And because we've got feminine and masculine sides to us, sometimes you might just be really frustrated and you just go,
Oh, hang on. What's that? That's got to be feminine, isn't it?
no, but I thought that was pretty masculine for me.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Whereas
he's just basing it on the sounds I make when I'm on the other side of the
Sounded a
desk.
bit feminine on my
right.
feminine to me.
Whereas a feminine side might be a whereas you're just letting go some tension.
Okay.
Whereas if I might just go means I've been overworked, I've been a bit angry or frustrated. So, and it doesn't matter whether you're male or female, you can do the light, you can do the heavy. It's whatever the mood is at the time.
So more of a than a so
because it's you're clearing the energy
okay, right,
out
okay.
of
So
your
the breathing
body.
in is slow,
Yep.
slow and deep.
Yep.
The breathing out is like a.
It's like a harsh, and it could also be long.
It could be long, but
Could be long. It's whatever you allow your body to do.
now I must admit what I'm doing now is kind of what I do when I go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
I do this in bed naturally.
So I'll give you another one in a moment that will help you with sleeping.
Oh, God, okay. So what have I just accomplished there? Giving myself a bit more oxygen.
You've released some tension.
Have I? Oh,
That's
good.
what you've done. And by taking consciously a deeper breath in, you've taken some more oxygen in, but then you've also told your brain and your lungs to just go, but we need to get rid of that stagnant CO2.
Oh yeah, I've had a bit of that today.
Yeah,
I had to
so
deal.
that's-
I had to deal with a situation today that involved me getting like really
So
upfront and
what would have
dealing
been
with a
really
situation.
good is if you sat there beforehand
Well,
even or afterwards where you just go,
Well, it's interesting you say that because when I was having these conversations with certain individuals on a phone today, it had reached the point where I needed to say something, and that's not really particularly like me. I sort of generally just, don't like confrontation, but, like something needs saying, yeah. And it was interesting. Like I ploughed in there, and I was quite, kind of really going at it, a bit uptight, but I noticed my breathing changed. So I don't think when I was in that somewhat self-induced stressed situation, because that's what the situation called for me being very proactive and very forceful.
Yeah.
But I noticed my breathing change. When the person was off checking with their manager, right, my breathing was I was like like this,
because you lost steam because you used
I'd not taken any oxygen in.
Correct, because you were on a steamroll, and this is what happened.
Was I getting rid of carbon monoxide? That's what I was doing, wasn't I?
When you were doing
I was
the
blowing
heavy,
out the
you were
'cause
exactly,
Right, okay,
yeah,
it's all
because your
making
body
sense.
was starved of energy, and you didn't get rid of the actual.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I wish they'd been starved of oxygen.
Which is also why, when say you do public speaking, for instance, it's really
that's
good
interesting.
to make sure you have had enough oxygen in your body.
Now, that's very interesting because something I did, I'll just tell you this, Carine, when I used to do a lot of public speaking. And early on when I first started doing public speaking, they used to call my name and I'd go to the platform and I'd start speaking to the audience. And I used to find myself very, very nervous. And particularly during my sort of introductory remarks, I'd be kind of fluffing it up a bit, if I'm honest, yeah. Here's an interesting thing. When my ex-wife was having, I think it was our first kid, she went antenatal classes, and I went along with her.
And they teach you, they teach you breathing.
Right,
Yes.
it's just starting to come back to me.
Yes.
But it was about making a conscious effort to breathe in, but not so much that you hyperventilate.
Yeah, correct.
And then
You breathe out as well.
Well, they said you naturally breathe out because your body will release as long as you don't hold it in forever.
Yeah.
So I started doing that before public speaking events.
And it would have worked.
It worked.
Yeah,
What I used to do is I
yeah,
used to go to the back of the audience so I could see the back of the head. So I sort of had a rough idea of who was in the audience. And I was doing what you've told me to do. I was stood, but I had my arms next to me like this, and I would go...
Yeah.
And I kid you not, when I used to get up, when they called my name and I got up on that platform, I was like, bang on from intro.
Yeah.
There was none of that.
Yeah. Because breathing properly will actually calm down your nervous system.
Right.
Yeah.
So I used to do that as, I suppose, basically as a tool for a job that needed to be done.
Yeah.
What you're saying is you should make that a habit because...
Correct.
That kind of,
life is a job.
Life
that
is
needs
a job.
to be done.
Life is a job that needs to be done.
And so this is where part of
she
what
she doesn't say much, but when she does,
it's
golden.
Bang on, yeah. But this is where in my sort of workshops is I actually give people the tools to go, okay, if you want to go through life day by day in a better way, then you got to start your day properly. So instead of jumping out of bed, the alarm goes off, or you roll out, I'm awake, I better go to work. No, start with breathing. Start with landing in your body, and one of the best breath techniques that I love in the morning, because a lot of times I wake up with a sinus issue, so blocked nose.
Yeah.
And most people don't realize that left and right nostrils, if you're a nose breather, most of us think we breathe equally through both sides, which is not true, right? And it's a really good, interesting way to test it is when you do your alternate nostril breathing, especially in the morning, because if you slept on this side or that side, one nostril may be closed, you don't even realize it, or one might be half closed, or if you've got sinus issues, they might be both closed, right? And they've done various studies, and I was so interested in it because I didn't believe it, is that your brain will override you into nose breathing instead of mouth breathing, so you can teach yourself to nose breathe, clearing your nostrils, because your body won't let you die, right? So even if you have a fully blocked nose, by doing slow, gentle nostril breathing, every single time those studies, they did it, and I've tested it on myself several times, and I've shared it with people, and they've come back and gone, Carine, you are absolutely right, this works, is your brain will clear that nostril, because it won't let you die. Now, there's a bit of scientific fact for you.
That is interesting because I'm sort of trying to think what's happening at the moment. So I have had some nasal spray today.
Yeah.
Just before we came on. So my nostrils are clear. And because my nostrils are clear, as you're talking to me, and I've not got my mouth open, I am actually breathing through my nose. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But something I noticed, like, if I've not had my nasal spray, and for example, during the day, if I've not had my nasal spray, I will compensate by breathing through my mouth.
Yeah. So sorry to cut you off, but nasal sprays are also designed to get you addicted to it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
because it sells.
Yeah.
Whereas the alternative would be if you can actually learn to breathe through your nose.
What happens is let's say I run out of the nasal spray and I go to bed, my nose closes up pretty quick. And it is like you were saying, it's either one side or the other. And I'll sort of lay on one side and it'll drain for a bit, and then I'll lay on the other and it'll drain for a bit.
Yep.
But if it gets really bad and both and I'm trying to breathe through my mouth in bed at night time, I actually start really panicking.
Yes, because the thing is, your natural state isn't to sleep with your mouth open.
No.
Which is where you then end up with breathing issues and dry mouth. You end up with teeth issues, gum issues, because the oxygen's going in and the bacteria are going, whoa,
that's right. And you wake up in the morning, your mouth's sort of like...
Absolutely, like you've had a party going
Pharaoh's
on in
sock
there.
Or something,
It's like, so if you wake up, and I'll show you this breathing technique.
Yeah, teach me some more.
What you do is you do alternate nostril breathing.
Okay.
And it is really good to equalise, because we've got that feminine and masculine side, left and right, in your body, and it needs to be equalised.
Which is which? Left is feminine, right?
That's correct. Left is feminine, right is masculine. And we need to balance it. Your body's always looking for equilibrium and balance, right?
Right. So teach me, Carine,
so what
show me
you
how
do
to
is
breathe
you've got
out.
a couple of different options.
Yep.
And for the camera, it's going to look a bit awkward because basically it's your middle finger in between your eyebrows, like your third eye.
What have I got to touch my finger on my eye?
Well, no, you put your finger there, and that's just the resting spot. That's just equalizing to do it this way.
Right.
Then you get your thumb on one side and you close one nostril.
Oh, okay.
And then you breathe in through that side and you breathe out through that side.
But what if this side was blocked? Would it unblock?
So what you do, it eventually will, but you need to have patience.
You might
And
be
you
dead
need
by
to,
then.
No, because the thing is your brain won't let you die. And I've experimented with a fully blocked nose before. Then you just do slow, gentle breathing in, and you may only get a little snippet and a little snippet out, because what you're going to do is rotate. So then you go to the other side
Okay.
and you breathe in and out.
So if I do this, if I've got a
Or you can do it from underneath. So you could also
runny
do
nose.
it.
Oh, I've got runny nose now.
Which is perfect.
Is that a sign that something's
Yes,
releasing?
Correct.
on.
Absolutely.
Hang on, I might need to
Wipe your nose.
wipe my nose on my microfiber cloth.
Yeah. So because it might actually unblock your sinuses. So the other way you can do it
okay,
for the
right.
camera to make it easy as well is do your thumb this way
Yeah,
and breathe in,
like that.
and then get your index finger and go.
Why not my thumb?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, okay.
You can use the same hand. So you're using different hands, which is quite fascinating to watch. Whereas you literally just do it with one hand. So you go
A fascinating
You're
man.
and
fascinating.
see how
one's ever told me
one
that
side of
before.
mine makes a noise, which is normally if it's semi-blocked.
Oh, you get whistle nose as well, do you?
Absolutely,
Oh,
we
yeah,
all
yeah.
do,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So then you go, and then
Can
you
you
go,
answer why sometimes when I've pressed my nose up like that, I
Yep.
can breathe easier?
Yep.
And you can also get
Yep.
those, are you saying those like tabs
Yeah,
that you can
see,
get on your
I
nose and
can-
they stretch your
I
nose
can
out a bit?
hold my nose like that if I've, say, got really bad sinus or I'm sneezing a lot. I hold my nose like that and I breathe easier. So they're
Really?
just little tricks. Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen those like plaster things you can put on? They're like sort of got a bit of metal
Yeah.
in them or something, and they stretch out and they work for me.
That's good. That's good. But maybe if you do the breathing in the morning for a few minutes like that, if you do that every single day, you'll train your brain to nose breathe, but you'll also find that your sinus passages and your nasal passages will actually start to balance a lot more because it's telling your brain, I like being balanced. Yeah. And if you have got one side blocked, you've just got to be really gentle. So you just take a little bit of air in that one and out. Then you go to the other side, that works. And then you take more air that side and out. And then when you go back to that one, over time, so you just got to be patient and not panic because you can't die. Your body isn't going to let you die. That's the thing, because I've experimented with this several times and people say that's not possible, and I've done it with a fully blocked nose, and it's just a little.
So she's not telling you just to constantly just breathe through that blocked nostril.
You literally just
No,
go,
keep swapping it.
Just swapping it
keep
over.
swapping,
just-
but one side
keep
may
trying.
only get a tiny little bit of air in and out,
Just keep training.
even
it
if
to-
it's nothing, because I've had it before where you just go.
Do you know the reason why like noses get blocked? What's the science behind that?
It's an imbalance of some kind. It just
Okay.
means that somehow the flow isn't right.
Does diet affect it at all? Because
Yep.
I've noticed
Absolutely.
that sometimes if
Yep.
I eat like maybe a bit of cheese or
Yep.
something like that.
So dairy is really bad for people with sinus issues, which is why I don't have dairy. Eggs will do the same. Eggs will
love
do the
dairy.
same thing. Eggs will. Alcohol will does it if it's got histamine in it. So wine will do
histamine,
it.
yeah.
So
now that's
histamine will do
interesting
it.
because
Yep.
there's some beer.
That could do
4X
it.
or
4X,
something.
you
4X
can-
beer. I used to drink 4X in the UK. Didn't
Yeah.
have a problem. Moved here. 4X. I'm really allergic to it.
Which
And
means it's got some chemical
something
in
in
it.
it.
Yeah. So things with
Yeah.
chemicals in it will do it. It might be, say, certain chips where, again, they've got chemicals in it. So clean living and clean food
yeah.
will actually help mucus forming, because mucus, which is where the blocked nose a lot of times comes in, it's a protection mechanism because there's inflammation happening somewhere.
Yeah,
body's
it is
not happy,
inflammation that's
and then it creates mucus. And then people go, oh, mucus is really bad. No, mucus is actually the protection. So the way to get rid of the mucus is to go, well, what's the root of the problem?
Yeah, and those nasal sprays, like the Atropine nasal spray, they actually prevent the mucus, don't they? Because they
Yes. So it's a Band-Aid.
They dilate the blood vessels.
Yeah.
So it's kind of simulating getting extra oxygen in.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it is getting oxygen in, but it's doing it. It's doing an artificial way.
And it's not actually getting the oxygen in. It's cheating.
It's cheating because it's just making the blood vessels bigger, isn't it? That's all it's doing.
Which it's like taking blood thinning medicine.
Or blood thinning, yeah. That would be the other thing.
That's the same thing. Whereas if you change your diet to a different diet, your blood will actually be thinner. There's a reason why your blood is thick. Chances are you're not breathing properly. You're maybe not moving around a lot. You're not getting enough exercise, and you're potentially not eating the right food.
In your
and
body,
probably low in vitamin C.
Yeah.
Vitamin C will actually thin your
Yes.
blood out.
Vitamin C and
Vitamin
cayenne
D?
pepper is fantastic. Turmeric is
what was
fantastic.
that one you just said?
Cayenne pepper.
Oh, no, I don't know if that's the one. So there is an alternative to those chemical nasal sprays, and it's a type of chili. Have you seen that? It's like
cayenne pepper.
That is the one, is it? I got that once. I blew someone up, and I was, God, don't ask thing.
Oh no, so don't know. So I would recommend colloidal silver for that instead.
Okay. Right. And then you can get those
because the cayenne is great if you have it in the morning, half a teaspoon in some warm water, throw it back. Because what it does is it balances your blood out. So if there's any internal bleeding in your body, it will heal it, and it will actually thin your blood so it can function properly. So it's not like other chilies, because other chilies can be quite overheating.
Oh, yeah, it's like terminose
whereas
red.
cayenne pepper is cooling.
Okay.
Even though it might have that burning sensation, it's actually cooling for the body.
Have you tried neti pots?
Yes, very uncomfortable.
They are quite uncomfortable. Have you tried a neti pot?
No, I don't know what that is.
A neti pot, basically, you know these two nostrils?
Salt water.
If you put someone up this nostril, it will go up and round and come out the other
it
nose.
does.
Or through your eyeballs, yes.
Or through your eyeballs.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it can do.
So,
Absolutely.
so like a neti pot is like basically, it looks a bit like a teapot or a watering can, isn't it? It's got a very long, thin spout, and you stick it up your nose, and you bend over the sink, and you pour water in one end, normally
and then
saline.
your snot comes out.
And snot all comes out. It's a little bit like, that saline. I mean,
it's salty water.
It's a similar thing, the saline I spray up
yeah.
my nose. That also blows it out occasionally.
Yeah. So I would say the better solution is do alternate nostril breathing in the morning.
I'm not complaining, because it will save me money.
No, I'm still waiting for this box breathing.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's do some box breathing. Come on, let's get some box.
Box breathing is really good if you get stressed.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're going to give yourself a bit of energy boost in the middle of the day, for instance. You could also do, after you do your alternate nostril breathing, you might actually want to do box breathing in the morning to prepare you for the day.
Right.
Because all those things ultimately are a win-win.
Okay.
So box breathing is basically a container, because you're doing it in a square, in a way, for those people that are trying to work out what does it really look like, because it's 4, 4, 4, and 4.
Oh, this is like a mental construct of a box.
That's correct. Yeah.
4, 4, 4, and 4.
Yeah. So basically you breathe in for the count of 4, you hold it for the count of 4, you breathe out for the count of 4, you hold it for the count of 4, and then you start again.
So you breathe in like...
Counting to 4. Yeah. And basically you can count as fast or as slow as you want. So if you really want to oxygenate your body but also be really calm, so it's not one that you would do constantly for like 10 minutes, because then it ends up where you are self-hypnotizing yourself in a way, because you're really calming down the nervous system, but you're also energizing yourself at the same time. So you sit there, you can for a minute or 10 rounds or whatever it is you want to do, and it will lower your heart rate, it will calm down your nervous system, and it will re-energize your body, because you're literally counting in for 4, you're holding it for 4, so the oxygen goes to your external extremities.
Yep.
Then you're releasing it for 4. So
Why
you're
are you
clearing
releasing it for 4? Because like you're breathing, I get the breathing in for 4 because that gets a lot of breath in. I get the holding the breath for 4 because that means that it's doing its job in your body. Why don't you just blow it out really quick? Why do you have to do that for?
Because it's a calming exercise.
Oh, right. So it's not just about oxygen.
No, so it's not just about oxygen. It's basically a calming exercise.
And that's why you also hold it for 4 when you've breathed out rather than going, let's breathe in again.
Yeah. Because that's why they call it box breathing, because it's like you're in a box. All sides are equal.
I suppose it's bringing you into the moment.
That's right, yes.
So you're not thinking about anything external.
So that if you are overwhelmed, so it's great if you've got anxiety, for instance, and you just go, oh, my God, serious. So then you just go, I'm breathing in, I'm holding, I'm breathing out, I'm holding. So it's like this calming down system.
Well, I definitely need a bit calming down today.
And the other thing is what most people don't realise is when you're counting, you can't think. When you're counting, you can't think.
You can't think when you're counting?
No.
I can't think when she's singing.
Maybe that's another way.
It's a weird thing, right?
Telling you a lot about my voice, isn't it?
No, it's because she sings so well.
Yeah.
So this morning, was it this morning?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, she was singing, like humming and singing a song in the office that we work in together. And I literally can't do my work when she's singing because when she's singing, I'm like going off on a little thing, you know,
he's seeing
creative.
the notes
I'm seeing the notes and arranging the chords.
But that's because you're a musical person, I guess. So it's like a meditation for you. I
can't listen to background music when I'm having to think like...
Oh, no, but I can't either. But that's because your mind can't do 2 things at once.
But I can do something like some... mindless job, like shoveling dirt or something like that. I could do that
because you're using a different part of your brain.
Different type of your brain?
Yeah, so using a different part. So you can try that experiment and you just go, okay, I wonder if my thoughts. So it's great for people that have got intrusive thoughts or people that say my brain is overactive and I'm thinking all the time and I can't stop it or I can't slow it down. Then I just say to that person, will you just do some counting in your breathing? And you tell me how many thoughts you have whilst you're counting.
Oh, okay.
So do you want to try it?
Yeah, go on. Yeah. So box breathing.
Yep. So
how many thoughts do I have?
Yeah. So you just go.
Okay.
You physically have to count. So you're counting for 4, breathing in. You're holding it for 4. You're breathing out.
You're right. I can't think of anything while I'm counting.
Correct. Yeah. Which is why it is
so it stops you overthinking.
Yeah.
Because you're counting.
Yeah.
Couldn't I just skip the breathing and just count?
No, it's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
Well, you could.
Well, I mean, if you're counting and not breathing,
might as well do something while you're counting, mate.
Then you actually are going to get quite anxious because your brain won't let you die, so therefore it will force you to breathe. And because you're not breathing, it will get anxious.
So holding your breath and counting is not going to work, is it?
Not for a long period of time, no.
Not for a long period.
So you can do different types of breath techniques as well,
Go on.
where you are holding it for a long time.
How long is long?
And some can hold up to a minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like the potato.
And then
potato breathing technique?
I think it's it's got that. That's the name.
Those people that they do the free diving, don't they? Where they like really get oxygen in their lungs and then they can hold their breath for like 9 minutes or
because
something.
they're slowly filling. So what they do is they slowly fill your diaphragm. You go up, you go up, you go up, because that's how you actually get oxygen in. You start from the bottom. So basically it comes in, but you've got to get it all the way down the bottom and you fill it all the way up. So that's where your belly comes out. And then it goes into your lungs and it goes into your throat, and that's basically at the back of your throat to your mouth, right? And then when you're breathing out, you literally start from here, letting it go, because your stomach or your diaphragm is the last thing to empty. We don't think of it that way, but that's how it works, right? So when you're holding your breath for a long time, you can then end up feeling like you're off the planet.
Yeah.
Because you've deprived your brain of oxygen, but what you've done is you've pushed that oxygen to all the parts of your body, which is why you're starting to feel so light, because it is now full of oxygen.
Yeah.
So it's actually really good if you're trying to heal certain parts of your body.
Right. Okay.
Because you want to give that oxygen to your body and then you're letting it out. But
I want to sort of come back on that just as we near the end of this podcast. We've talked about, stress. I kind of get that.
Yep.
I get the stress.
Yep.
Yeah, I was feeling like less stressed when I was doing that just now.
Yep. Which means you can then concentrate and focus more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. That's all good. So mental health, I get that. Now, we've touched on some of the science of, parts of the body. Like, I get it. If you've got more oxygen to your stomach, for example, we're not talking about in the stomach. We're talking about the blood vessels to the stomach. Digestion is going to be better, all that kind of thing.
Yep.
So you've given me a list here of things that the role of deep breathing for combating disease. So things like cardiovascular diseases.
Yep.
That makes sense because the heart not only pushes blood around the body, it also has blood vessels to the muscle of the heart.
Yes, so it will function better.
Right. I mean, that's why people
Yes.
have a cardiac arrest. If they have a heart attack, a blood clot that prevents oxygen getting to part of the heart muscle, they
That's
will
right. Yeah.
potentially go into cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
So I get that. Stress, yes. Anxiety and depression, yeah, I get that. Respiratory diseases, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You've got two on this list that I don't quite get, and I'm going to push back. Diabetes, cancer. Right, let's start with diabetes. Diabetes is a sugar, it's an insulin issue.
Yep.
How can breathing help insulin? Is that because breathing helps the pancreas?
And it means that there's more oxygen getting to all the body parts, which means they will function better. When it functions better, you will make better decisions. So it's that craving of food. If you don't breathe very well, you get more stress, so you tend to crave fatty food, sugary foods, salty foods.
All right. So better breathing means better decisions because your brain's working better. So therefore, it's a knock-on effect. It's not that if you breathe better, your diabetes will go away.
No, it's not just like it's not just like that.
What about a cancer? How's because cancer is like, it's happening on a cellular level. Cancer. So
my belief is cancer is emotionally created by holding on to stale energy in your body, and it goes to the weakest part in your body. And cancer is a healing mechanism, like mucus. Mucus is a healing mechanism trying to protect you, focusing on, because you can get mucus
you think
anyway.
Cancer is the body's answer
to try to
rid the body of something.
Yes.
So that could be like smoking.
Yeah.
That like cancer like that, asbestos, something like that's in your body.
Could also be that, say, for instance, a lot of people that if they get really what they call pissed off, for instance.
I did today.
Well, they end up with bladder cancer or kidney cancer, because if you then go into the Eastern philosophy, certain organs are related to certain parts of the body and the functionality and the emotion that goes with it. So
when, like, obviously someone's got cancer.
Yes.
Yeah. That they're dying from it.
Yeah, but that's because they're not dealing with the trauma and the pain that's caused it in the first place.
So do you believe that if someone's got cancer,
they can heal themselves?
They could heal themselves.
Yes, they can.
Yeah. So is that? I mean, I have heard of
which
situations
is power
where
of the
people,
breath, power of meditation, and you heal. So
I met a guy the other day. Who was diagnosed. Well, he's got cancer. He was diagnosed 5 years ago with 3 months to live.
Yeah,
still here. 5 years later, very happy.
Yeah,
gets a bit tired, but he's relatively healthy.
But that's why there is no cure, supposedly, for cancer. But we're also not looking at the lifestyle we lead, the causes of it.
Yeah.
A lot of it, I think, gets passed down from generation to generation as well, because you see
traumas,
and because you see family members suffer from those types of things.
Yep.
It's like, breast cancer, for instance, seems to run in certain families. Mum's got it, auntie's got it. Well, why is that? Well, maybe it's because they've seen someone go through it. So for some reason, that trauma and that process is passed on to the next person because other families don't get it. People, doctors a lot of times blame it and go, it's genetics. I don't, because they say DNA doesn't change. Well, I actually think you can change your DNA. And people have healed themselves. Like, say, for instance, and you may or may not have heard of him, but Dr. Joe Dispenza. He is a public speaker and he tours the world. He's a psychologist. He's a physio. He was hit by a car, a UV or SUV when he was running, and he was told he was probably never going to walk again. And he literally healed himself through the power of the breath and meditation. So you can sit there by consciously breathing and going, where is the pain in my body? I will send oxygen to that part of the body. I will breathe through it and I will heal it. Because the power of the mind is amazing, right? So you can use the mind and the breath to heal. Now, whether you believe it or don't believe it, it's true in both cases.
No, I'm not coming back with no, I don't believe it, because I do know that just in my own life, when I've had a lot of trauma and what have you, it's made me very, very ill. Yeah. Stress makes you very, very ill.
It does.
Depression makes you very, very ill.
It does.
And the mental, the mind, body.
Yeah. So there's a knock-on effect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then sometimes the body just goes, I don't even know what to do anymore.
Don't know what to do anymore.
And
so
then
if
you end up
like
with a cancer.
So if you show yourself a bit of love with a bit of the breathing and say, look, I'm not ready to go yet. Maybe that can. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, just before we finish, I'm just going to give a couple of cautions, a few little warnings. Just before I do that, is there anything that you've not told us about breath yet?
I can give you a really good breath technique for those that
please do that, and then
struggle to fall asleep or wake up in the middle of the night because they are overthinking. There's another breath technique which I really like, because when I do that when I'm laying down in bed, so this is one that you do laying down, which is awesome.
Oh, great, yeah, absolutely.
So I do them in bed and I end up like catching myself to be in between worlds sometimes, when you go there between, because we don't know where we go when we sleep.
Yeah, I'm a professional sleeper. Yeah. I'm brilliant at sleeping.
Well, you're good. Well, not really everyone good. Is like that.
Great at it.
But if you count, say, counting for 4, holding it for 5, and then breathing out for 7, and then just hold it for a moment and then start again.
So breathe in.
So breathing in, counting for 5. Then, counting for 4, holding it for 5, and then breathing out for 7. So what you're doing is you're taking a deep breath in for 4, holding it for 5, so you're sending it to all different parts of your body, and then you're really slowly and letting all of it go to the count of 7, holding it briefly. Good. When you do that for several rounds, your body gets so chilled that you can easily fall asleep. So it's great if you wake up in the middle of the night and you go, oh, man, I can't sleep.
Are you trying that tonight?
I'm trying that tonight.
You're going to try that tonight?
And if you wake up and you just go, I can't sleep, well, then you just go, okay, I'm just going to sit there and do that for a while. And your brain just goes, oh, I've got nowhere to be. And I'm counting, so I can't think.
Yeah, and then I'm counting, is it 4 or is it 5 or is it 7?
Yeah,
or is it 4?
That's right.
Maybe
because you're not repeating it.
Yeah.
So
maybe
you're
this
literally
thing about counting sheep, then there is something to that.
There is, absolutely.
There
is. See, that was probably a breath technique person.
breath technique. All right. Okay, well, it's been a pleasure figuring all this out with you. A couple of cautions before we finish. These are just things that you've told me beforehand. Don't practice breathing techniques if you're feeling particularly ill or unwell.
Yep.
Stop if you feel discomfort at any time. Sensations such as tingling, heat, cold, itching, lightness or heaviness can be experienced by healthy people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you're breathing, if you do feel tingling or you feel a bit hot, cold, itchy, light or heavy, that doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong.
No. So what it means is that you're actually getting energy to that body part.
So that's
or
all right.
It might be releasing tension from
what
that
would you
body
class
part.
as don't practice it if you're ill or unwell? Or stop if you feel any discomfort?
It would be when you think you're going to throw up, for instance.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
If you're going to be throwing up or if you've got vertigo and you think you're going to pass out or
Yeah.
you need to hold on to something, then I would say,
Or if you're
what,
like
don't.
hyperventilating or something like that, don't do that.
Well,
That's-
hyperventilating, then you would be doing the deep breathing.
yeah, but
and then
don't do
breathing
that when you're stood
out.
up. Bad
Yeah,
idea
you
when
sit
stood up.
down,
Sit down, yeah,
absolutely.
lay down better.
And then you do the sighing, which is that breath in and then the loud breath out, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to slow down. Because hyperventilating is basically the shallow breathing 10 times faster.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's because you're in such a fight or flight state that your brain has overridden everything else. So everything else stops.
There's an interesting thing. I'll just throw this in as a last little tidbit of information. So when I used to do the first aid training back in the UK, have you heard when someone's hyperventilating, obviously they're getting too much oxygen into the body.
Yes.
One of the old techniques in the past used to
Paper
be
bag.
blowing a paper bag. We don't do that now.
But we should.
Well, no, we shouldn't. I'm going to kick back on that. You shouldn't do that, because when you blow into a paper bag,
Yeah.
what you're actually blowing into a paper bag is carbon
Yeah,
monoxide.
CO2.
And then you're breathing the carbon monoxide back in.
But see, you take the paper bag away, for instance.
Right,
Yes.
but that's not what they used to do. They used
No.
to go,
Yeah,
right,
no,
so you're
which is
breathing the
bad
carbon
for you.
monoxide
no,
back
not a good
in.
idea.
And then the carbon monoxide neutralises the oxygen in
correct.
your
So,
body.
yeah,
And
not a good-
I mean, you can see the idea behind
Yeah,
it.
but
is
not
it
a good
would, It would
idea.
bring down the oxygen
Yes.
levels because you've hyperventilated.
Yeah.
The modern way of dealing with hyperventilation, if someone's having a panic attack or whatever,
Yeah.
is breathing.
Yeah, it is.
Get them to
And
slow
it's-
their breathing
And
down.
it's a deep breath in, like a conscious breath in,
Just slow though. Don't
No, it's
slow
just,
it right
yeah.
down. And you also said, final word is, seek advice from an expert if you're pregnant, if you've got a medical condition, or you've got any concerns before practicing.
Yeah.
So,
But see, pregnant women benefit from breathing properly, just not the hyperventilating, the holding for too long, the circular breathing, which
Yeah, don't
what
go
they're
doing ice
doing,
baths and
which
all
is
the
what they
rest
do
of it.
in these breath work sessions. Is I would definitely say, well, if you're pregnant, it's probably not clever.
don't do it.
There is breathing that they used to teach, and there was someone that was pregnant, and I was talking to her about they will start teaching you breathing for the part of the birthing. Apparently, they don't do it anymore. No, and that's because they're trying to whip you in, whip you out, and they don't want you to spend hours doing the breathing with the contractions
But yeah,
and everything
bit of the
else.
old
But
good
that's what you
fashioned,
used to
good
have
old
to do.
fashioned
Yeah.
antenatal breathing,
Yes,
good
which
for
is very
everyone.
good for you.
pregnant or otherwise.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's been wonderful. Thank you.
May I
Mariella.
do a plug?
Hey, of course you can. Before we go, yes, you have got some breathing
Yeah, because I do
sessions coming
workshops.
up, haven't you?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So
quick.
the next one is going to be happening in Kilcoy on the 8th of July.
Okay.
That's at the Kilcoy Sports Centre between 8 and 9 in the morning. And I do that every month. And then on Tuesday the 15th at Tugulawa Gym, and that's in the evening between 6 and 7.
When's that one? On the
15th.
15th. So the
Yes.
9th,
July. 8th,
8th,
and
8th
15th
and the 15th of July
July.
are
Yeah.
the next ones. We'll put a link in the description.
That would be lovely.
How much does it cost to come along and
$10.
breathe? $10. Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
which is for in the country, it's very cheap. If you were doing it anywhere in the city, you'd be paying anywhere to $40 to $45 for a session.
Great. There's no weird stuff going on. It's all
No,
just
there's no banging, there's no clocks, there's no deep weird breathing
or howling
going
like
on.
an animal.
howling like
Oh,
an animal.
no.
Let the inner
Did that
animal
really
come
happen?
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not-
it's
not at that one,
Not
it was
that
another
one.
one.
Another one. And I'm like going, that's
No.
a bit weird. All right.
That's like Tantra, which is another whole conversation.
Yeah, no, we don't
Yeah,
say that.
so
Well, thank you very much, Carine.
thank you.
From You Are The Change. Go and check out Carine's website and her social media and her new YouTube channel, and go and try some breathing.
And please subscribe
Please subscribe.
and
yeah,
like and share and comment.
please do that.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Mariella,
you.
in the corner of obscurity.
Thank you.
We're going off for some breathing now. We're going to breathe.
Breathing and a cup of tea.
All right.
Breathing and a
Bye
cup
for
of
now.
tea. Bye for now.
Cheerio.